Welcome to On the Go with AAUW, the American Association of University Women. I'm your host, Jennifer DeSanto, the Executive Director of the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute at George Mason University. And today we will be learning all about Oriental brush painting with international award-winning artist Darlene Kaplan. Darlene, welcome to the program.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you for being here with us. We're so excited because you have such beautiful artistry, and we're going to learn all about the imagery behind the paintings and some of the meanings behind the paintings.
Good.
But I know that you grew up on a farm, and you had some early influences into becoming an artist on the farm. Tell us about your experiences there.
I grew up there were 10 of us, and so nature was a big part of our farm. We were self-sufficient. We raised our own food, everything. And so I was always interested in bugs and chickens and all the different kind of animals that we grew and produced. So I was fascinated with bugs that I could dig from under the logs. So I would draw and try to draw each one of those. And my mom would draw for us as well. So that's basically where I learned my love of art.
That's where the spark.
It's just from nature.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
And you carried that on in your life.
Right.
You started out with oils though when you really started to paint.
Yes.
And then you grew into this new style, this Oriental brushwork painting.
Right.
Tell us about the work that you did in oils and some of the history behind your journey to doing what you're doing now.
The oils, I was working in the hospital in Alabama at the time, and I signed up for oil classes at night at a local college and a community college. So I took art and art history, and it was in oils, and I knew nothing about the art itself, so it was all a learning experience. And so that's how I got started. And then we had little art in the park competitions, and so I would join those and just see how you do fare against other artists. And then when I moved to Virginia, my husband and I moved to Virginia, and I took lessons again at the community college and also at the torpedo factory.
For oil.
For oils,
Yeah.
still in oils. And so that's basically, I took from Diane Tesler, Danny Dawson, those guys, in realism in oils.
And then you decided to do something interesting in taking a martial arts class, and then
Right.
you met some folks who helped you learn about the Lingnan style.
Yes. I signed up for martial arts basically because my husband and I were avid tennis players, and we didn't like to play during the winter indoors. So we wanted a sport that could keep us in shape for tennis whenever it became tennis season. So I signed us up for the martial arts, and we got involved in it, and we're still involved in it after all these years. And one of my instructors was Chinese, and he would talk about, why don't you try the Chinese art? It's different, it's symbolic, has all different kinds of symbolic meanings. So just from his influence, I found a teacher and down at the torpedo factory that would teach this kind of art, the Lingnan style art.
Lingnan style art. Why don't you tell us what that is?
The Lingnan style of art, the Lingnan is the foot of the mountain in southern China. And it's a school at the foot of the mountain, so it's Lingnan School. And they had three major influences. It's been around since the 1600s. And then later on, it started changing a little bit because they had the Lingnan School, the artists that stayed directly into that school, and then they had the Lingnan painters. And the painters were the people that left the school but continued the painting, the Lingnan style. So those became the Lingnan painters. And Professor Chow was my teacher's teacher, and he was the biggest influence on getting that style noticed. The art went from China to Korea to Japan to Europe and then finally to the west, the United States. So that's kind of the pattern it went. So since it went through the Orient, it became, instead of Chinese art, it became Oriental art. So it's the Oriental brush painting.
And you became interested in this because of the discipline that it provided, different from the oil painting. There are
Right.
certain restrictions when you're working in this style of art and style of brush painting
Right.
that make it a challenge, right?
Right. It's got the 5 disciplines, and in the martial arts is a discipline. And so it follows through in all these 5 disciplines. It's the art, the martial arts, the music, the poetry, and the medicine. And the Tai Chi is the martial arts in the Chinese culture. The medicine is usually the Qigong, and the music is usually the stringed instruments. And the poetry is a lot of the art, people would have the poems on the sides or on the top of the paintings.
Included in the paintings.
Included in the paintings. And I don't write I don't do poetry, so I do the chops, the seals. They're called mood seals. And the mood seals themselves, like this one here on the side,
Right.
those are poetic sayings. So those are the poems.
So that all of those disciplines are involved in the painting. It's
They're-
being represented in the painting. It's
Right.
kind of a guide to well-being in China.
Right, it's
Okay.
a well-rounded person. And if you look at the movement, like Tai Chi is built on a ball. It's yin yang, the energy that's involved in all of the disciplines. It requires the same energy, inner
So you can't
energy.
just you don't just sit down and start painting. You actually have to prepare yourself.
Right.
You have to understand that it's a kind of an emotional experience to paint and to
Yeah.
represent. Probably you have to prepare yourself even with the tools that you're using. And I know you have a few tools here that are critical to doing the work.
Right.
The 4 gems or the 4 treasures.
4 treasures.
And tell us
Yes.
what the 4 treasures are.
The 4 treasures are the brush. Can't paint without a brush. The ink stone. This is handmade stone. It's made usually from slate.
May I see it?
And then the ink stick. This is made of soot and glue together. So you put a little water in here, and then you grind your own ink, the black ink. And by grinding the ink, going different directions, this soothes the mind. It warms up the shoulder, the elbow, the wrist. It warms up your body. And so it gets you ready. It's kind of meditation. It gets you ready, relaxed. And then you've got this blank sheet of paper laying out. So this is the other treasure. So it's the four treasures. And then it's like the hardest thing to do is, okay, now what am I going to put on it? So that's the first step. So then as you're warming up, you think about the outside, the nature. All this work derives directly from nature. So then when I paint, I follow the seasons. So whatever's blooming outside, that's what I paint. And I'll bring a flower or something in, and I sit there and hold it all different directions and paint from nature, rather than just looking at a photograph, which I never do.
So you sort of preparing yourself, internalizing, making yourself aware of your surroundings and the nature
Right.
that abounds near, in your world.
Right.
And that you try and represent on the page. And the paints are another treasure. The
This
minerals
is-
themselves.
The minerals themselves are part of the ink, the color. Different cultures, the Japanese like a lot of ink. The Chinese style likes more colors. And this just comes in different forms. Your colors come in different forms. It comes in a tube, which is already mixed with the glue in it. All you have to do is mix this with a little bit of water and you're good to go. It's easy. This is the same color, but it comes in a powder form.
Okay.
And then I have to put the powder in, and I have to mix this with peachtree sap glue. It's hard to say.
Peachtree sap glue, that is hard to say.
Peachtree sap glue and water.
Okay.
And then you grind it, and it will take about About 24, 48 hours of grinding, not all at one time, but to get it ready, it has to be smooth to get all the bumps out of there and stuff. But the tree sap is what holds the color together. Without the glue, the color will sit on top of your paper, and when you do this, it flakes off.
Yeah,
and then the powders, these are the powders, same as this, unmixed. And then it also comes in the chips. And the chips also have the glue already in it. So all you do is put this in a container and put a little bit of water on it, and that's good to go.
And these are made from, these are minerals
These
that are
pure
made from
minerals.
rock that is ground down. What kinds of rocks are these?
This one is malachite, the green stone malachite, and all of these are malachite. This one is azurite, and this is used in a lot of the old masters. You'll see a lot of the old masters, you'll see the ink in them, and you'll see these two colors, this blue and this green, and all the other colors have faded from back in the 1600s. So the minerals never fade. And this one, I don't know what this one is, just maybe a turquoise with a lighter, more matrix in it.
It comes from the earth.
It all comes from the earth.
And then you put it, and even the paper itself can have different texture, and that reacts to the watercolors or the mineral colors that you're using.
Yeah.
And how do you load the brush? Because I think there's a unique way of holding the brush, and then there's a unique way of getting the colors on the brush in order to come up with this aesthetic, the way it bleeds onto the paper.
The way that you hold your brush is 2 fingers on top, the thumb backs it up, these fingers right here control. And you put your palm down, pull the brush here. We do this with a pencil. With this kind of art, it turns up this direction. And a lot of times when you turn it up, your fingers are sticking out here and the brush is sticking out. So you have to use your fingers to pull the brush down. And this is the proper hold. Elbow off the table, elbow is up even with the wrist. And then you paint from your shoulder and your body rather than your fingers like so.
So good you were playing tennis because you got that good muscles.
Right. It does get your deltoids after a while. So when you load your brush, you load it you get it wet with water. So you've got a little container with 3 different sections for water. And the water is going to stay in the top part of the brush. The color you put in, first color you put in is usually white, so you put that in halfway. For instance, this painting here. And then yellow is going to go all the way up to the white. And then halfway of that is going to be orange. And then halfway of that is going to be a little bit of darker orange, and then red on the tip end of your brush. So when you put this down and you make a stroke, your red comes out first, and then the orange, yellow, and then it comes all the way down to where you get the lightest color back here, and the water pushes all those colors out of your brush.
Wow.
So you load the brush on the colors on the brush rather than on a palette.
And this is horse here or wolf here. tell me what. And this comes from China too. The instruments that you
Yes, this
use.
is handmade from China. All the brushes are handmade. The paper's handmade. This is hand cut from a slate.
And people
this
can't see this very up close, but even this ink stick is carved.
I know, they're
and
beautiful.
it's just beautiful. It's a work of art in itself.
Yeah,
so the materials here are all natural.
All natural. This is sheep or goat on the outside, and this is called a combination because it's combining 2 different hairs. And on the inside is wolf or fox. They call it, it's the same. If you pay a lot for it, it's called wolf. If you don't pay quite as much, it's called fox. This one would be wolf.
Let's talk about what we'll do is we'll show the audience some images of paintings that you have done. You've got some with fish.
Right.
I know that there's some significance with fish, specifically other creatures and other elements in. Why don't you imagine or tell us about the fish painting to begin with? What is the reader supposed to experience from your painting?
The fish?
Yes.
Usually when I do a painting, I have a point to where it brings you into that art, and it'll be at a different point. But the fish, always you can see the flow or the energy, the chi in the fish. That's really important, because without the energy and all this work, the painting is dead. And looking for composition, even with the fish coming down through the air, you've still got the composition. And the fish symbolizes, like if you have a child or someone that's getting married, for instance, you might want to give them a painting of fish, because it brings you many grandchildren, or it brings it brings children. If you want to keep the cash flowing, you have a painting of fish in your office or your workspace, because you always pay the bills going out, but you don't always have the money coming in. So this keeps the cash flowing. So it's again the
that makes sense.
Yin Yang circle.
And then the rooster is strength.
The rooster is strength, vitality and strength. And then the bamboo, you have the gentleman. It's a strong gentleman, brings lots of prosperity. The plum blossom, same thing. It's a winter's friend, so that brings prosperity. And so it's like, for instance, a daylily. I paint a lot of daylilies. And the daylily symbolizes safety. So every male that leaves home in China will present their mother or their wife with a daylily. And they plant the daylily, and it keeps them safe, the child or the husband safe, until they return.
That's
so they
beautiful.
call it the Mother's Day plant. So that has a lot of symbolic meaning.
Different from the marigolds we used to give our mothers on Mother's Day, right? And you've entered your work into various competitions, and I know that you've won some international awards for your scrolls that you've done, and we have some images to share with the audience to show them those as well. Tell us about when you began to do that, when you felt confident that, okay, I'm going to start putting my work into competition.
I've been putting my work out there for about, I would say about 15, 20 years. And to me, the competition just shows you at what level that you are. It's the same thing with tennis or tournaments that I used to do in martial arts. It gives you a level, and if you don't make the competition, the cut, you work harder.
And well, you've been successful. You've obviously been recognized for your work, and in China. So you have some awards here, I believe.
Yes,
that's,
the scrolls, I send the blank, or not the blank, but I send the paper to China, or I send it to Japan, because the entry, the guy is from Japan. So I send the actual art on this paper, unmounted, to Japan. It has to be accepted first with a photograph. And then if he accepts it, I send it there, and then he handpicks. This is international, so he has competitions worldwide. So it's the, this will give you an example. This is all the people that entered the show. So this will give you an example of how many entries.
This is chock full of entries.
Yes, those are all the
from
ones
all
that
over the
made
world.
it. Yes, those are the ones
So
that
France,
were accepted.
And there's several from North America, China.
Yeah,
it's
we have a North America branch.
And Japan and Russia, so all over the world.
All over the world.
Yeah, beautiful.
So you send it there to the guy in Japan, and he will hand take it to China. And that's where they put them on the scroll.
And then they're
in
juried.
China.
They're juried there.
They're juried they're not juried there, they're already juried in.
Oh.
They're juried there for the awards.
Okay.
That's where they choose the awards. After they hang them, they'll hang for about a month, and that's where they pick the awards from.
Yeah. Do you ever get any pushback for being an American, not necessarily a Chinese individual, or in terms of doing this type of art? Obviously, you're accomplished, and obviously from the awards that you've won, and just looking at your images, it's absolutely gorgeous.
Thank you.
Highly a high level, definitely a high level of artistic accomplishment. But have you had any experiences where people are a little shocked to see that you're the artist?
Yes, the first thing they do is you're not Chinese, and it's like, No. And then they're surprised that an American can do this. And then the second thing that they're surprised about is that I'm a woman doing this kind of art and reaching the level that they think I've reached.
Right.
So that's.
So this is a
That's what I get
traditionally
back.
a male-dominated art form.
It is.
Yeah.
Yes. There's some women, but not that many. And
Yeah.
so they're just.
So your Dr. Wu, he was progressive in that he brought you under his wing. So this is your art
Yes.
teacher.
Yes.
And how do you feel about? And so now you're a teacher also, and you have a studio. What's the name of your studio?
Soft Brush Studio.
Soft Brush Studio, and that's in Alexandria.
Right. Right.
And you now trying to pass on the legacy that Dr. Wu?
Henry Wu.
Henry Wu.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah.
That he shared and taught you.
Right. It's actually my duty to once you stick with a teacher, as long as I've been with Henry, I have to teach it. It's my duty to teach it because he's put all this time on me, so I have to carry on the legacy.
Yeah.
And not that many people do this art in this area, and that sticks strictly with the Lingnan style. A lot of them will do Chinese art, or they'll do the sumi-e, the Japanese art, but not all of them will stick strictly with this style. So I try to do that.
So you teach students in your studio. You also
Yes.
do workshops for folks.
Yes, yes. I teach 3 days a week. I teach Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And the workshops I usually will do in August, and this August is from the 12th through the 16th.
Okay.
5-day workshop, and it's all day. And it's very intense, but a lot of people come out with some really nice work.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
And you have also created some books, some publications, and I think you have them here.
Yes, I have. I've written two different books. This one in 2011, and it's just compilations of my art, pictures, images of my art. And then this one I just finished.
Okay, so this
And
is Tranquility in Motion, recent Oriental brush paintings, and this is images of all the art that you've done. But you also only sell original pieces. You don't sell your work in print. I mean, obviously there's a market for this, but you feel it lessens the work if you replicate it.
Right.
And so
Yeah. I don't reproduce in any way, whether it's prints or giclées. I don't allow anyone to make giclées of my work. It's strictly originals because it's
a piece of you.
It is, and it's just one of my things I just don't want to reproduce. So
Right.
I want the person to buy the original and have the satisfaction that will always be their painting.
Right.
That
So-
they're not going to go out and see somebody else with
So the
same
closest they're
thing.
going to come is picking up one of your books.
Picking the book up.
And this other book is Nature's Journey, Original Oriental
Right.
Brush Paintings for Private Business and or Corporate Art Collectors Worldwide, which is your clientele.
Right.
But you do also have some local galleries that you're hanging your works in. I know that you're down in Occoquan at the Loft Gallery.
Right. I have a studio down at the Loft Gallery, and I'm also in the gallery part of it. So.
So people, if they want to go online and get a hold of some of your
Right.
work, what's the best place for them to go? Would it be the Loft Gallery in Occoquan, or do you have your own website?
I have my own website. It's at darlenekaplan.com.
Okay.
And I have more of my work online there than I do at the gallery. But I do have about 20 images online at the gallery. And I have about probably a couple of hundred original paintings down there that in my studio space that I have for people to browse through.
So lots of opportunity to
Lots of opportunities.
I adore all of the paintings that and we're really fortunate because we're showing them to our audience members right now, the different paintings that you've done. Because it's really, you're conveying emotion in them, and you took the time to relax into it and paint something of substance, something of nature in our joined life experience. So
Right.
yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Before we go, though, I think we want to, let me just look here. You have an award in Beijing. There's a special award in Beijing that you...
The one that's in Beijing, I don't have an image of it because it's there.
It's over there.
It's on.
So
it's
if anyone's
hanging
going
now.
to Beijing...
But this is the flyer for it.
Okay.
And yeah, this is the...
I'll show this, but it's in Chinese. So for our viewers who can read Chinese, this is available to you. But so you have a lovely painting. This looks like a landscape.
Oh, that one's not mine.
Oh, that's not yours.
That's one of the ones from last year.
Oh, okay.
They'll use like each time.
What, you don't have it with you, and we're not going to be able to show it. But can you kind of tell us what it looks like?
It's chrysanthemums. It's white chrysanthemums and with blue chrysanthemums down at the bottom, little daisy things, and it has a snail crawling up a bamboo.
Oh, very nice.
So I put little critters in a lot of my work, little bees, bugs, that kind of thing.
Reminiscent of when you were intrigued by them as a child.
Yes.
Yes. I like the scroll. It has. Is it? They're not ants, but
Shrimp.
the shrimp. Yeah, those are really very nice, all black and white. Very unusual, very eye-catching. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, those are very difficult to do. That was one of the hardest subjects for me to learn.
But rewarding.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Darlene.
Much.
It's been a pleasure. I'm very thrilled that we were able to share your work with our audience today.
Thank you.
Take care.
Really nice to be here. Thank you.
And thank you for watching On the Go with AAUW.